The West Philippine Sea is more than a body of water. It's the lifeblood of Filipino communities, a pillar of national identity, and a flashpoint in global geopolitics. For generations, these waters have sustained families and shaped the Philippines' maritime heritage. Its strategic location channels trillions in global trade, making its stability vital for the world. Beneath the waves lie vast reserves of oil, gas, and rich fisheries, resources crucial for the nation's energy security and food supply. But the stakes go beyond economics. This is a fight for sovereignty, for the right to control what international law recognizes as Philippine waters. The West Philippine Sea dispute has drawn in major powers, turning it into a front line in the US-China rivalry and a test of the rules-based international order. The outcome will shape not just the Philippines' future, but the fate of smaller nations facing great power pressure. At the heart of the conflict are two irreconcilable claims, each rooted in fundamentally different visions of history, law, and sovereignty. On one side stands China's sweeping 10-dash line, a boundary that cuts across nearly the entire South China Sea, while on the other, the Philippines asserts its rights under international law, specifically the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. China bases its claim on ambiguous historical narratives, arguing that ancient maps and records justify its control over vast stretches of sea, territory that includes waters and islands well within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, or EEZ. The Philippines, by contrast, stands firmly on UNCLOS, which grants coastal states a 200 nautical mile zone for exclusive resource rights, fishing, and exploration. This legal framework is recognized by most of the world and is meant to prevent exactly these kinds of disputes. In 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague delivered a landmark ruling, overwhelmingly siding with Manila. The tribunal invalidated China's so-called historic rights, affirming the Philippines' entitlement to key features like Scarborough Shoal and Second Thomas Shoal, and clarifying the limits of maritime entitlements in the region. Yet, China flatly rejected the ruling, refusing to participate in the proceedings and instead intensifying its activities in the disputed waters. This left the Philippines with a significant legal victory, but one it cannot enforce on its own, as Chinese ships continue to patrol and assert control. This defiance not only undermines the authority of the international legal system, but also leaves Manila navigating a dangerous reality, where the rule of law and the realities of power are increasingly out of sync. The world is watching closely. If international law can be ignored here, it sets a troubling precedent for maritime and territorial disputes everywhere, threatening the stability of global order. For the Philippines, the challenge now is to transform its legal rights into real-world security and lasting peace, a task that will require both international support and steadfast resolve. Unable to win in court, China has turned to relentless gray zone tactics, coercion that stops short of open war. The China Coast Guard and maritime militia swarm contested waters, harassing Filipino vessels and blocking access to traditional fishing grounds. Tactics have escalated from shadowing to dangerous confrontations, water cannons, ramming, and even boarding Philippine ships. In 2024, Chinese personnel armed with bladed weapons injured Filipino sailors during a resupply mission, a new and dangerous escalation. The August 2025 collision near Scarborough Shoal, caught on video, showed China's willingness to risk disaster to assert control. These are not isolated incidents, but a calculated campaign to make Filipino presence untenable and seize de facto control. By targeting resupply missions and fishermen, China aims to force Manila out, one crisis at a time. The pressure is constant, testing the Philippines' resolve and the strength of its alliances. For Filipino fishing communities, the West Philippine Sea is not a geopolitical chessboard, it's home and livelihood. Generations have depended on these waters, passing down skills, stories, and traditions that are deeply woven into the fabric of coastal life. But now, Chinese patrols have turned once-rich fishing grounds into danger zones, where harassment and confiscation are daily threats. Fishermen face not only the unpredictability of the sea, but also the looming presence of foreign vessels that challenge their right to work. Scarborough Shoal, once a lifeline, is now a place of fear. Yields have plummeted, and many have been forced into poverty. The loss of access to these traditional fishing grounds has shattered the hopes of countless families. The economic pain ripples through entire villages, undermining food security and local economies. Markets that once bustled with fresh catch now struggle, and families worry about their next meal. The psychological toll is just as severe. Fishermen now sail in fear, their dignity and freedom eroded by constant intimidation. Anxiety and uncertainty have become part of daily life, affecting not just the fishermen but their loved ones as well. This is not just about territory, it's about survival, identity, and justice for ordinary Filipinos. Despite adversity, communities show remarkable resilience, supporting each other and refusing to give up hope. Their plight has become a rallying cry, putting a human face on the struggle for sovereign rights. Across the nation, people are uniting to demand respect and protection for those on the front lines. The government's resolve is fueled by these stories, turning abstract legal battles into a fight for real people. Each testimony adds urgency to the call for action and justice. Protecting these communities is now a moral imperative for the nation, a test of unity, compassion, and the will to defend the rights and dignity of every Filipino. In 2024, after violent clashes at 2nd Thomas Shoal, Manila and Beijing agreed to a fragile truce, allowing limited resupply to Filipino troops. The deal was a temporary fix, not a solution, and left the core disputes untouched. China shifted its pressure elsewhere, intensifying harassment at Scarborough Shoal and exposing the truce's limits. For Beijing, it was a way to manage global optics. For Manila, a necessity to protect its soldiers. The August 2025 collision shattered any illusion of lasting peace, proving that informal deals cannot restrain China's ambitions. The episode convinced Manila that only a stronger, more comprehensive strategy could safeguard its rights. The lesson quiet diplomacy alone is not enough in the face of relentless coercion. Confronted by escalating threats in its maritime backyard, the Philippines under President Marcos Jr. has made a decisive shift, moving away from a policy of accommodation and instead embracing a strategy of active deterrence and resilience. This marks a significant turning point in the country's approach to national security. The U.S. alliance has been revitalized and deepened, with expanded access to key bases across the archipelago and over $700 million in military aid since 2023. This renewed partnership has brought more frequent joint training, intelligence sharing, and a visible American presence in the region. Joint patrols and large-scale exercises with partners like Japan, Australia, and others have forged a growing coalition committed to a free and open rules-based Indo-Pacific. These collaborations send a clear signal of unity and shared resolve. At home, Manila is investing heavily in advanced weapons, acquiring BrahMos and Typhoon missile systems, and upgrading its naval and air capabilities to build a credible, porcupine defense that can deter and complicate any potential aggression. Legal warfare is also underway. New maritime laws now codify Philippine claims, while fresh international legal cases target China's environmental destruction and assert Manila's rights under international law. The strategy is clear. Combine military modernization, assertive legal action, and robust international partnerships to raise the cost of aggression and defend Philippine sovereignty on every front. The Philippines is no longer a passive victim of regional power plays, but an active player shaping its own security future and asserting its place in the Indo-Pacific. By rallying global support, strengthening its own hand, and standing firm in disputed waters, Manila is changing the balance in the West Philippine Sea and inspiring others to do the same. The message to Beijing is unmistakable. The Philippines will not stand alone, and its resolve to defend its sovereignty has never been stronger. Manila's new doctrine is dual-track, build hard power for deterrence but keep diplomatic channels open. The goal is not war, but to make aggression costly and sovereignty respected. Military upgrades and alliances shift the calculus, while transparency, publicizing Chinese harassment, galvanizes global support. Dialogue remains essential for crisis management. Manila keeps talking to Beijing even as it pushes back at sea. Temporary truces may buy time, but the Philippines knows dialogue alone won't secure its rights. The challenge is to project strength without provoking conflict, and to assert agency without becoming a pawn in great power rivalry. This balancing act is the heart of Manila's strategy, strong enough to defend itself, wise enough to keep talking. The aim is a stable equilibrium, where Philippine rights are respected and peace is possible. The West Philippine Sea struggle is a defining test for the Philippines, of sovereignty, security, and national resolve. What's at stake is not just territory, but the right to exist and prosper free from coercion. Manila's strategy, military strength, alliances, and transparency, has transformed it from victim to principled defender of international law. The ultimate goal remains a just and lasting peace, achieved through deterrence and dialogue. The courage of Filipino fishermen, Coast Guard, and diplomats has united the nation and inspired global support. The Philippines stands firm, drawing its line in the water, determined to secure its future and uphold the promise of a world governed by law. The journey is uncertain, but the nation's resolve is unwavering.